Hey everybody, Rob from mtbmichigan.com.
Because what could get more cool than a fat pastor on a mountain bike, really?
It's March 2020 and that's a great time of year. For many of us, that means the start of mountain biking season. So we're all going out to the bike shops and looking at and buying new gear. And for some of us, we say, you know what, I'm a bigger guy, bigger person, I want to take control of my health. And so we want to join in on that fun of mountain biking too. And that's kind of what brings me to today's video. I've been asked a couple of questions that I'm going to break down into two questions. I have been asked, Rob, would you do a bike check? And I'm going to do a bike check on one of my bikes today. And the other question I've been asked is, hey Rob, I want to take control of my health. I see you out riding, you're a big guy and you're having fun, and I want to do the same. What should I buy? What kind of bike should I get is a very subjective question. I'm going to use several criteria to answer it. The first criteria I'm going to use to answer it is this. Most bike manufacturers are now putting a 300-pound weight limit on their rider and gear. So it almost forces you to have to buy a custom bike. And I know for many of us, that is not an option. The second criteria that I'm going to use is, where do I live? I live in Southeast Michigan. It's relatively flat. I don't have to worry about a lot in terms of excessive climbing. The third criteria that I'm going to use to answer this question is that living in Southeast Michigan, knowing that my rider weight and gear is going to be about 300 pounds or as close to that as possible, I want to get the best bang for the buck. And I want the least maintenance on that bike. So those are the criteria I'm using to make this video. Those are the criteria I'm using to answer this question. If I were to get one bike to start riding and have the most fun and build the most confidence in my riding and make me want to ride more, my honest to goodness answer would be this. I would get a fat bike. I kid you not, if I were to only have one bike living in Southeast Michigan, the bike I would pick would be a fat bike. Here's my reasons why. Number one, look at the size of those tires. Those tires inspire confidence. If I'm going to get on a bike and want to ride often, I'm going to want something that's going to make me feel confident. And those tires are going to help me do it. Number two on those tires is not only do those tires inspire confidence, once I figured out tire pressure, then I've got a little bit of suspension feel, more bang for the buck. So that's why I would choose a fat bike. As to my personal choice, again, these are subjective. I happened upon a great deal on a fat bike, so I have it, and I built it up from there. I'll give you a bike check on my bike, and I'll make certain recommendations along the way of what to look for in yours. Does it mean everybody should ride the exact same bike as me? No. It just means these are things that I've learned. With that, this is my 2016 Trek Farley 5. This is what I call a Farley 5-point mine because there are some custom things on it. And if it were to have a name, I would call this bike Chancho. Handlebars. Minor race face, but honestly, as a big person, I'm making the recommendation, primarily if you're big, you're probably taller and wider. I'm making them a recommendation, run like at least 780 to an 800 mil bar. I found that to be a lot better to help me breathe. I run Ergon grips. I just happen to like them. These have been through 3 seasons now and are just finally starting to wear and be ready to be replaced. On my Farley, you can see I run a race face stem as well, and I run a little more solid enduro style stem. The reasoning for that is, you get a little bit of flex when you're torquing on climbs. So I run a 45 mil Respond stem with my Atlas bars. and that seems to work out very well. Next thing you can see, I run Shimano XT brakes. I also run their shifter and derailleur. These particular ones were 2018 single pistons. The dual pistons, or the dual pistons or 4 pistons came out right after. So I was a little bummed that I missed that party, but the reality is run at least 180 mil rotors front and rear. That's going to help give you some good stopping power and good control on the bike. My particular Farley, as you can see, I have stock frame and fork. I have a stock front hub and stock tires, or stock wheels. My tires, I happen to have V Bulldozers. I do not recommend them if you want to go tubeless. Mine are set up tubeless, and it was a pain in the neck. So fenders, I custom made those. I found that on the Fat Bike Republic group page on Facebook. The Fat Bike Republic has a website, and he has a template on there on how to make fat bike fenders. They cost me $2. They've been very good, and I have had no need to change them yet. Although the back one, as you can see, is starting to show a little wear. If you're going to run a fat bike with a rigid fork or without a rigid fork, or if you're going to ride any bike in general, you have to run a dropper seat post. Mine's 150 mil Bontrager. It works fine. I haven't had any complaints. I run an SDG Bel Air 2 saddle. People have been asking about that. I just happen to find that to be the most comfortable saddle for my big fat butt. I run the stock cranks. I've had no reason to replace them. They've been fine. They're just race face cranks. And I did go to a race face narrow wide 32 tooth chain ring, and I run this Shimano XT 11x46 11 speed cassette on the rear. As for rear hub, this is the way to go. This has been a great hub. The DT Swiss Big Ride 350. It's a quieter hub. There are many other great hubs, but I'm going to tell you, as a big guy, or as some of my mere mortal friends with normal size frames or bodies, they've even broken their hubs. But I've gone through so many hubs. I found this one to be very reliable, and I do recommend it to guys who are 310 or more. It has been solid. Pedals, you can see I run flat pedals. Brand, I'm going to tell you, I have learned to stay away from Crank Brothers because I've broken 4 sets. My next pedals that I'm looking at are the Pedaling Innovation pedals. With the recent broken ankle, I'm trying to come up with a way to make everything as comfortable as I can be as I ride. So that's my Trek Farley. That is my story as to why, if I only had one bike, I would choose a fat bike. I know it's a subjective answer to a subjective question, but you know what? I'm answering it the best way I know how. Maybe you have some different answers. Let me know in the comments. Anyways, with that, live the faith, ride it out. I hope to see you on the trail.